Is it starting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, welcome everybody. This is the EPMO Introduction in English. I'm here, my name is Glenn Van Koyk. I'm the Senior Director of EPMO, and I'm here with a couple of colleagues from Southwest Keys that will basically go over with me on this presentation. What I will do is lay a couple of ground rules. This is the very first one. This is in English. We will do this in Spanish too, by the way. It is to be a fun, interactive activity. So notice that we have a whiteboard. We don't have a PowerPoint presentation. We may go to a system, we may not. And it is truly about giving you guys the insights of what EPMO is. And maybe we should start with that. So what does truly, oh, there you go. What does EPMO mean, right? Which I'm having technical difficulties to work. Okay, so well, let's start with that, and then we'll look at the capabilities of, there you go, EPMO. So what does EPMO really stand for? So everybody has heard of the PMO, right? The PMO is like Project Management Office. That's not what the EPMO at Southwest Key is. We are and I'm gonna move this up a little bit, right? And so we are an enterprise and then portfolio management office. And so enterprise, what does that mean? Well, it means Southwest Keys. Duh, no, yes and no. It also means that Southwest Keys, right? The enterprise is whatever you make it. So if you decide that Southwest Keys, I'm sorry guys, for some reason I don't get this, but as we say that Southwest Keys is the enterprise, you're right. But it could also be that, let's say, finance, which is a subset of that, right, is within that also an enterprise. Or you could say, well, there is, let's say, procurement, who then also is a subset of that, that is also envisioning themselves as an enterprise. And maybe there is, and I'm doing this without knowing exactly, but there's a purchase team that is also part of the enterprise. Now, why do we want to emphasize this? Again, this is an introduction to what EPMO really means. And so EPMO has basically a mission statement. And the mission statement of the EPMO, right, is, can I move this? Yes. So is to be, there, okay. Is to be of service. So we as an EPMO are going to be of service. We are of service to the Southwest Key organization. We are of service to finance. We are of service to procurement. We are of service to the purchasing team. And we treat each and every single one of them as an enterprise. Why? Because each of those enterprises has specific objectives, specific reasons for existence and whatnot, right? So that's why we made it very clear that we are EPMO, enterprise. Now, we said that we are of service. Now, we are of service to each of you individually, right? So we do service here, we service there, we service there, and we service there. That means that we also have the responsibility as the EPMO to service that way and that way too, right? So one of the other things that we always say is we are of service. Being of service gives us basically two responsibilities in being of service. And we call them the directive ring and the service ring. So we have a inner ring and an outer ring. This here, that's our subject matter expertise. That's where we will tell you, hey, you want to run a program, a project, a portfolio, an agile thing, whatever you want to do, we will give you what we call them foundational guidelines how to do that. So again, as part of being a service, one of the things that we want to do is we want to guide. We want to educate, right? And by the way, we are smart, but we don't know everything. So we want to learn, right? What works for you? What does not work for you? And so as a result of that, we will take all of that and make that part of it. Now, this whole area here is what we call the service area, which basically tells you, you tell us what you need, we will make it happen for you to work within the guidelines. So think of it this way. If you tell me, hey, Glenn, help me build a house. And I will tell you, okay, I know how to do a drawing for a house. And then in the middle of the drawing of the house, it said like, yeah, but actually I want you to build a pool. And that's where we're going to go like, hey, we are in the services of building you a house, not a pool. You're with the wrong person. So, but in our services, what I would say is like, oh, but I know this guy that's really good. And we'll step aside and have you be on your merry way. So this pertains, as I said, the enterprise approach towards what we're doing. Now we get to the really fun part, and that is, what does this P really stand for? So when we say EPMO, everybody says, oh, that's projects, right? Yeah, you're true. But that's not all of it, right? What else do we do? Well, we also do, and this is not our shelters that we call programs, but we also do programs as in what a true program is. And I know you guys are all gonna ask me, what does a program stand for? I will do that later. We will have sessions about what they are. I'm just giving you the high-level overview. So we have projects and we have programs. What else do we do? Well, and we're sticking with the P's. We do portfolios. And to be clear, that's the P that matters to us, because portfolio is an enterprise portfolio management office. We're not an enterprise project management office. We're not an enterprise program management office. Heck, another P that some people use, product, right? And again, we're not a product portfolio management office either. Well, what are you then, Glenn? Well, we're all of it. So we do all of that right this way. Plus, we do incidents. We do assets. We do risks. We do issues. We even do change management. Right? And anything else we could do. So the word portfolio, and again, another description will come towards that eventually, right? Is going to tell us what the meaning of that is. And it's a grouping of work with a visualization that actually tailors to, oh, let me minimize. Oh, that's a little bit too much. All right, let me go there. Right? That tailors us to that enterprise need. And the enterprise need, as we said, could be whatever that enterprise has decided that they want to do. So again, doing that, oh, I'm really not good at this. By the way, I thought you were, oh, there you go. Sorry about that, everybody. And as we said, it's the very first one, so it might not be as important, but this is really truly what we want to do, right? So that's really what our portfolio management is. By the way, I'm just going to ask, what are we in our time? Because we want to do 30 minutes. How many minutes are we in? Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so anyways, and we have members here from the company here that are just participating, but obviously they're listening in first, but they will participate in a moment. So we've established what the E is, we have established what the P is, right? So now we go into this one, and management. We are not pinky in the brain, and I'm definitely not brain, so I'm not trying to take over the world for all of you that think of it, but we are trying to help you being able to manage that. What's the biggest is? So when we say that the M stands for management, for management, right? That can be construed as many things, right? It's like, hey, stay in your lane. I'm going to do what I want to do. Don't call us, we'll call you. Very territorial, very tribal, as they sometimes say, right? But that's really not what we're trying to do with the EPMO. With the EPMO, what we are going to try to do is give you the data and the framework and a little bit of a guidance on how to manage all of this. So all of this to manage all of that. That's truly what we're trying to do with the EPMO. We do not decide for you, but we can say, hey, you have an incident that your let's say your internet connection or your access door for your delivery guys at all the centers needs to be widened by 5 feet because the trucks that are coming in are bigger and they cannot get in through the gates. You need to manage that because it's and you don't know about that because then it's affecting, because they're not doing smaller trucks. It takes longer for you to unload, offload the materials, and it has a operational lag. All of that is data, right? And that data is then around the framework, and the framework could be a service, right? Or it could be an asset, it could be anything but it wants. And what we will say is like, well, we'll give you the guidance how to take that data, and then you tell us, again, as per that inner outer circle, right? Which is permeating always everywhere, right? In terms of that service. right? It's getting pretty crowded on this dashboard, but if you follow this story, it kind of like makes sense now, right? So that's what we're trying to do. So again, we have that management now that provides you to give you. Now, for those of you that are a little bit techie, we call this data sets, okay? These are data sets, which basically means we'll give you the data. You can tell us how we can formulate that. Oh, and by the way, we don't do this alone. We have other elements of the organization. So think about think of that for example, PQI, for those of you that don't know it, that's an organization that falls under Joella that is being led by Dr. David Humble. They take those data sets and they convert them into data models, which allows you to then have your reports, dashboards, and whatever you need available to you on any cadence of what you have. So again, that takes care of really what is your M of the EPMO. And then the O, and again, you can say that has a different connotation as well. So I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller again so we can do this. So the O, let's go all the way down here. So what does an O in this organization? Right, so it's enterprise portfolio management, and then what does the O stand for? Well, it's an office. Sure. It's an organization. Yep, that too. Oh, and some people actually say, they actually have told me, oh, no, you're not even, you're neither one of those. You're an option. Now, right? But truly, what does the O really stand for? The O stands for that there's a group of people at your service, or of service to you, right? And they do that, yes. It's a group that you can find at HQ, but also will now hopefully grow to be a decentralized one where we'll have all these people so that they can always guide you. We'll get to that later. But it is part of an organization, and we envision ourselves, the EPMO envisions ourselves to be of service across the organization without really having a place in the organization. So if we are like, say, SWK over here, and let's just take IT, let me move this a little bit to the left. So if we say you have IT, legal, HR, finance, and let's say operations, right? And underneath that, there's a lot of stuff, but just take the bare bones of it, right? So as an organization, from a, let's say, direct hierarchical one, the EPMO is residing as a direct report to the CIO at this point. But really, the EPMO has a responsibility of servitude across the entire organization. And that means that we, again, under that guidance premise and under the elements, we will have a dedicated office of 5 to maybe 10 people. But then each of your departments will have areas of interest. So let's just take some examples of it. By the way, this is not a given. It's not what we say. It's something that we aspire. Again, this is our guidance. So within the legal department, right, there will be, legal is going to say, I'm going to have a business liaison. And this could be the chief legal officer for all that matters, or it could be the assistant of the assistant of the assistant of the assistant of the legal department. It really doesn't matter. Goes back to that enterprise word that we were talking about. So if you guys remember, all the way up here, when we were talking about enterprise, we said we do not distinguish between the levels of the servitude that we want to do. We will tailor to all of them. Obviously, let's be honest too. If the CEO comes to us and asks for something, and you ask for something, and you're a little bit lower in the totem pole, reality will dictate that we will do the first thing for the CEO, and then you're next. So let's just be honest about that, right? But what we do want to have is that we will have these people, and then again, within that, they had today, everybody does have, let me just blow that up a little bit again. Oh, not too much, right? Within this, you will have project managers. And within this, you will have program managers. And within this, you will have subject matter experts that will always interact in any of the portfolio needs that we were having, right? Now, what we are proposing is that across the board, we do expand this team to have at least the PMs be part of that. Now, when I say that they are part of it, that doesn't mean that they are ours, but they work with us on a day-to-day basis. So they are organizationally being reporting to you guys, whoever you are, they will tailor to your needs, but then operationally, we will enable and empower them to do that. What that does, which is very important, is one of the biggest issues that we've had in Southwest Key for many, many years is siloed work. EPMO is trying to establish a collaborative way of working. And there are some really nice decks, but as I said, we're not going to show those. This is just telling you a little bit of how we are going to do this. So that in a nutshell, right, if we were to look at that, explains to us what EPMO is, right? We talked about what is an enterprise. We talked about what the P was, and we said we look at the sales as a portfolio area. We talked about very high level about what management meant. And then we also talked about the O, and I believe that we are a organization that is consistent of a building block of an office, but we are truly an organization. And so that in a nutshell is what EPMO is and stands for from a very high level. And I'll stop here if there are any questions. Any questions?
Can you tell us about demands?
Okay, so demands is a building block. So as we, all of this, right, pertains to, sorry about that. All of this, right, all of this pertains to work. Oh, let me move it a little bit to the right. But all of this is really work, one way or the other, right? And so in order to be able to do this kind of work, what we always say is you will have a little bit of a funnel followed up by a delivery and then followed up by an outcome. Kind of like a rocket mid-flight, right? Who are the thrusters of that? Let's just go with that, right? Well, your intake of work happens through the different items, right? So you could have ideas, you could have incidents, You could have requests. You could have issues. You could have outright projects for all that matter, right? Or even service demands that are part of that part. And what you do is then, when you're establishing how you are going to do the work, you are going to establish what we call this area, which is then your demand management. And as I said, it has a funnel, which then, by the way, follows up by what we call here a delivery. And by the way, let me just do this, right? Do that. Which is by delivery, which then also gives us results. And then we do it all over again, right? But in your demand management is that you will have a process that is going to take all these intake components and streamline them into digestible tidbits, let's call it that way, that you can make well-informed decisions on. Again, when we were talking about, bless you, when we were talking about the enterprise, the decisions don't always have to be at board level. The decisions are being made by the caseworkers. The decisions are being made by the delivery guy, by the janitor. Should I clean toilet number 1 or toilet number 3, right? They are a mini enterprise themselves. So what we're trying to do here is taking all of that, putting that into a funnel. We'll get to that later, okay? And then once we have that, there are decision moments in here, right? So there will be thresholds of decisions that will say, keep going through them. Some of them will be very high level. Hey, let's show me all the ideas. Hey, I have a great idea. Let's go build balloons. Glenn, that's a great idea, but you know, Southwest Key is in a different type of business. So maybe we should park that one. But maybe somebody else comes up with an idea and says, hey, wouldn't it be great if we were able to accelerate the processing of children from intake to their bed by 20%? Oh, that's a great idea. Do we know what? No. But hey, that might be an idea. Oh, and that might have come from a caseworker who says, you know what, I can't get the kids processed because they're so tired. They need to go sleep first. Let's get that out of the way so they are settled down and then we can do the rest. I'm just making it up. I am not a professional for that. But I'm just telling you guys, that's what we do. So you establish this threshold and then you decide how you are going to deliver work. Again, we were saying it could be by means of a project. It could be by means of an incident. It could be means by just getting together and getting it done. This is not about overcomplication, but it is about accountability, visibility, and scalability. We are no longer 2,000 or 3,000 people. We are 10,000 people. We have more than 600 shelters, and we have a responsibility not only to the children that we cater to, but we also have a responsibility towards the people that actually fund us. We are a nonprofit. We are obviously obligated to show what we're doing with the money, show what we're doing for the kids, and show how good we are at it as well. EPMO is just a building block for that. And staying true to what we say what we do, and we do what we say. I will stop here, and we will make sure that you guys can look up at this. There is going to be a link at the end of this element that allows you to send out your questions and remarks to epmo@southwestkey.org, or you can also do the comments in there, and we will obviously send out also communications pertaining topics. We start off high. We will start driving the topics ourselves from what we think is important for you guys to know to be of service, but we do expect you guys to take over. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you need. We will prepare and work with you. Oh, and by the way, we do these in the HQ office, but we can do them in any other place. We can come to you and do a session with you people. And without that, thank you for everybody, and we'll talk soon, hopefully. And where is
the edge button on this side? The edge button? That should give you the screens. There you go.
Okay,
Good stuff.
boom.